Before Jesus calmed a storm that had hardened men weeping in fear, before he called a man 4 days dead out of his tomb, before a centurion's servant was healed miles away without Jesus ever laying a hand on him, there was always one thing he did first. One ancient practice so deeply rooted in the language he spoke that once you understand it, you will never pray the same way again. And I need you to stay with me, because what I am about to share is not just a Bible story. It is the missing piece behind every prayer that seemed to disappear into silence. So if you are ready to discover the ancient secret of speaking with heaven's authority, write the words, "I declare," in the comments just below. Write it like you really mean it. And hit the like button, because every time you do, this message reaches someone else tonight, someone who is waiting in silence, wondering if their words still matter to God. Let me take you back 2,000 years, to the shores of the Sea of Galilee, to dusty roads, to crowded markets, alongside a Jewish rabbi who carried something that almost nobody ever noticed. Jesus did not simply heal people. He did not simply cast out demons. Everywhere he went, something happened just before the miracle, and almost nobody talks about it. Here is what most people do not see. Here is what changed everything for me the day I discovered it. In the Hebrew mind, in the ancient Jewish understanding, there is a word, Dabar. It means word, but also thing, event, reality. For the ancient Hebrews, a word was not merely a sound. A word was a force. A word was a seed planted into reality. Go back to the very first page of the Torah, and what do you find? And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Creation itself did not begin with a thought. It began with a spoken word. The rabbis taught that nothing in this world exists that was not first spoken into existence, not whispered, not simply wished for in silence, spoken out loud with authority into the empty space where nothing yet existed. And Jesus, growing up in Nazareth, sitting in the synagogue, hearing the Torah read aloud week after week, was saturated with this understanding. He knew that in his tradition, words were not mere decoration. Words were dabar, substance, force, creative power flowing from the mouth of the one who speaks them. But here is where it becomes absolutely fascinating. When you go through the Gospels, when you read slowly and carefully through the miracle accounts, a pattern begins to emerge, a golden thread running through every supernatural moment. Just before the miracle happens, just before the impossible bends to the possible, Jesus does something specific. He speaks, out loud, with authority. Not a thought, not a silent hope, a spoken word. Let me show you what I mean, because this is going to move you in the best possible way. Look at Matthew chapter 8. A Roman centurion comes to see Jesus, desperate, because his servant is paralyzed and suffering terribly. Jesus says to him, "I will come and heal him." And listen to what this Roman soldier says back, a man who had never read the Torah, who had received no training in the Jewish faith, and yet who had understood something profound. He says, "Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but speak only a word, and my servant will be healed." Did you hear that? Speak only a word. This Gentile soldier had understood that Jesus did not need to be physically present. He had understood that there was creative power in the word itself, that a word spoken from Jesus' mouth could travel across distance and rearrange reality. And Jesus, amazed at his faith, said to him, "Go, let it be done for you as you have believed." And at that very hour, the servant was healed. No contact, no travel, just a word. Or look at Mark chapter 4. The disciples are in a boat, and a violent storm rises up, the kind of storm that drowned experienced fishermen on that sea. The waves crash over the sides, the boat fills with water. The disciples are terrified, certain they are going to die. And Jesus, who was sleeping, gets up. And he does not pray in silence. He does not close his eyes to meditate. He speaks directly to the storm. He says, "Peace, be still." 3 words, spoken out loud, with authority, directed at wind and waves that have no ears to hear and no mind to understand, and yet they obey instantly. The wind ceased. The sea became perfectly calm. He spoke to the storm as though it were a creature that had to listen, because in the Hebrew understanding, everything was created by a spoken word, and everything called into existence by a word can be brought back to order by a word. And then there is John chapter 11. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days, sealed in a tomb, decomposing in the Middle Eastern heat. Martha tells Jesus there will already be an odor. And Jesus, after having thanked the Father, does something that should stop you completely. He does not think Lazarus back to life. He does not will it in silence. He raises his voice. The text literally says he cried out with a loud voice, and he speaks 3 words directly into that tomb. Lazarus, come out. And a man who had been dead for 4 days came out of that tomb, still wrapped in his burial cloths. A spoken word reached into death itself and called life back into a body. Here is now what shakes me to my very core tonight. Perhaps you have been praying for something for years, but only in your head, only in the silence of your thoughts, never out loud, never with your own voice, never with authority. Perhaps you have been hoping in silence instead of declaring with boldness. Perhaps you have been thinking your prayers instead of speaking them. And what if the problem were not that God cannot hear your thoughts? Of course He can. He knows your thoughts before you even think them. But what if something different happened in the spiritual realm when you actually speak? What if silence has kept your miracle dormant, not because God needs to be convinced, but because you were created in the image of a God who spoke creation into existence? And there is a creative force in your voice that activates when you finally open your mouth. Because here is the prophetic word I believe is meant for someone watching right now. And you will know if it is you, because something in your spirit will rise up the moment I say this. You have been hoping in silence instead of declaring with boldness. You have been waiting for your circumstances to change so that you would finally have something good to say, instead of speaking the change you need before you see it, the way Jesus thanked God for Lazarus before the tomb had even opened. You have been agreeing with your fear out loud, telling people, I don't think this is going to work. I'm probably going to lose everything. Nothing ever changes for me. And then wondering why nothing changes. You have been speaking death over situations while hoping for life. And God is saying tonight, I gave you a voice for a reason. I did not just give you ears to listen. I gave you a mouth to speak, because you were made in the image of a God whose words become reality. I am not waiting for you to convince me. I am waiting for you to agree with me. I am waiting for you to open your mouth and call things the way I see them, not the way they currently appear. This is the ancient wisdom hidden in plain sight in every miracle Jesus performed. Not loud theatrical prayers, not magic words or formulas, but this simple and profound truth. Dabar, the spoken word, carries in the spiritual realm a weight that a silent thought does not carry. Think about what this means. Jesus did not pray in order to perform miracles. The miracles flowed from his relationship with the Father. And when the moment came, faith did not stay locked inside his mind. It came out through his mouth as a word released into the situation before him. Let your ears be opened. Peace, be still. Lazarus, come out. Let it be done for you. Short, direct, spoken with the calm and authority of someone who already knew the outcome before it even happened. And here is the second prophetic word for someone right now. And you are going to feel this one in your chest. What is the impossible situation you are going through? Perhaps it is financial, and you have thought, we will never get out of this debt, instead of speaking out loud, provision is coming, and I will lack nothing. Perhaps it is relational, and you have been silently rehearsing every reason why that relationship is over, instead of speaking life and reconciliation over it, even when you cannot see how. Perhaps it is your health, and the doctors have given you words to carry, and you have been silently repeating their words in your head every day, instead of speaking God's promises over your own body out loud, even when your body has not yet caught up. Perhaps it is your mind, the anxiety, the depression, the constant noise, and you have been silently agreeing with every dark thought, instead of speaking peace into the storm the way Jesus did, with your own voice, in your own room, even if it is only a whisper at first. Speaking it out loud is not denial. It is not pretending the diagnosis does not exist, pretending the bank account is not empty, pretending the relationship is not strained. It is choosing to call what God says is true before it is visible, exactly as Jesus thanked the Father for Lazarus while Lazarus was still in the tomb. It is aligning your voice with heaven's reality rather than with the reality of your circumstances. So here's what I want you to do, and this will change something if you truly do it. Tomorrow morning, before you look at your phone, before the noise of the day enters your head, I want you to speak, out loud, even very quietly, 3 things over your life. Not wishes, declarations. I am provided for. Healing is working in my body. My family is restored. Speak them as though they were already true, the way Jesus thanked God for Lazarus before the stone had even been rolled away. And then watch what happens in the days that follow. Not because the words are magic, but because you were created to carry Dabar, and something in you was designed to awaken the moment your voice comes into agreement with heaven rather than with your circumstances. The ancient rabbis said that the tongue holds the power of life and death, that what you repeatedly speak you eventually come into alignment with, for better or for worse. And Jesus, fully God and fully man, walking on dusty roads as a Jewish rabbi, knew this in the depths of his being. He did not only believe in his heart, he spoke with his mouth. And the miracle followed the word. So if you are ready to start speaking instead of simply hoping, write "I declare" in the comments right now. Write it if you are done agreeing with fear out loud and you are ready to agree with God out loud instead. And hit the subscribe button because we are going to go deeper into these ancient truths, what Jesus knew, what his world understood, and what we have forgotten in our modern rush. And do not forget to like this video so that it reaches someone else tonight who is hoping in silence and needs to hear that it is time to open their mouth. The secret that Jesus demonstrated before every miracle was not complicated. It was not a formula. It was simply this: he spoke, out loud, with authority, believing that the Father had heard him before anything had changed. And when you begin to speak like that, when your words begin to come into agreement with what heaven already says is true, you are no longer simply praying. You are becoming a partner in that same creative force that said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Shalom.